We've reviewed a couple of examples of what angles look like, and now we're going to talk about how we measure the size of those angles. We can measure the angle between two lines using a protractor. And you can see an example of the protractor below. Protractors are usually transparent, which lets us put it on top of a piece of paper or on top of an object that we're trying to measure an angle on. And so it lets us see the angle underneath while we're measuring it with the protractor. Angles are measured in degrees. In an example, you might see an angle written like 50 degrees. And notice that we don't usually write out degrees as a full word. We usually just use the degree symbol. So I'm just going to run through the steps, even though it's not going to mean a lot without seeing it in action. We'll get to that shortly. So first, place the protractor's T at the vertex of the angle. The protractor's T is like our bullseye or our target. Place that at the vertex. Then we line up one of the lines that's making the angle with 0 degrees on the protractor. And you'll see we have a couple of options for doing this. Then what we do is we read the angle from where the other line lands on the protractor. So now that I've said these kind of meaningless things, let's give them some meaning by looking at some examples. Okay, so here's an example of an angle that we want to measure, and we have our protractor here. And so you can see I'm kind of doing this on the computer, but it would look very similar if this was just on a flat piece of paper and you had a transparent protractor. So first thing I'll highlight is this spot right here is what I called the T before, and that's like our center of the protractor. On this one, it actually looks more like a cross or an X. A lot of them don't have this lower line, so it looks more like a T. Anyway, this is what we always line up with the vertex of the angle. So that's what I'm going to do here in number 1. I'm going to line that up with the vertex. And then what you have to do is you have to rotate the protractor. And again, in real life, this is a lot easier. You just sort of turn it. And keeping that center of the protractor, the T, on the vertex, you turn the protractor until you get 0 degrees. So down here you can see I have 0 degrees on my protractor. I turn that until I get 0 degrees, right along that line. There we go. And I'm just going to try to center that protractor a little bit better. There, that's great. So you'll notice that there's a 0 and a 180. That's because protractors can read angles in either directions. So I'm going to start reading from the 0. So what that means is I'm using the inside scale of this protractor. And I'll highlight a couple of angles here. So I'm reading starting from 0, which means up at this line is 10 degrees. And halfway between those, you see this line here is 5 degrees. So each tick along the scale is 1 degree. So I'm now going to read my angle from 0 upwards. And so here's the line, and I have to decide what's the angle or point on the scale that that's pointing at. And so to me it's, okay, 10, 20. Looks like it's right about on 25, I'd say. And obviously, like, it's not a perfect exact tool. It's not, but it's good at getting within a degree or so. So I'm going to say that this angle is about 25 degrees. And you could write that, now that I'm done, I could, whoops, sorry, I'm writing all over the screen here. Now that I'm done with the protractor, I could move it out of the way, and I could also write the angle right here, 25 degrees, beside the angle. So now I want to show you one more example, just so I can show you what I mean when I say that you can read the protractor from either side of the scale. So again, I'm going to line up the center of the protractor with the vertex, and now I'm going to rotate the protractor so that I have 0 degrees lying along one of the lines. But you notice this time I'm lining up 0 degrees with the other side. Let me try to get this a little better. There we go. That's good. So I'm at the vertex, and I've got my 0 degrees lined up there with one line. And so you notice that this time my 0 is on the outside of the scale, and I'm reading, so there's my 0, and I'm reading around the outside scale this way. And so I'm 0, 10, 20, 30, all the way past 90 degrees. Looks like we're approaching over 120 degrees, and then I have to decide where this line lands on the scale. And to me, it looks like it's a little past 125, but is it quite at 126 yet? Maybe. Let's go with 126. So this angle here is 126 degrees. And again, what you'd probably do is move your protractor out of the way. I'll just slide it up there. There we go. Protractor's out of the way. And then you could also write this, this angle here beside that angle symbol, 126 degrees.